The first time Don't Walk Away punched through a boombox speaker in the spring of '93, it felt like three Chicago by way Houston voices had barged into pop culture with nothing but joy and bop-proof confidence. Radio programmers couldn't spin the single fast enough. MTV dropped it into hour-heavy rotation. Even denim ads tried to license the hook. By the end of the year, millions of teenagers were lip-syncing that chanty chorus while scribbling Jade across Trapper Keepers. Yet just a few summers later, the trio was gone, reduced to nostalgia night posters and remember them tweets. How can a group with platinum plaques, a Motown polished lead, and record label muscle disappear almost overnight and end up suing one another 3 decades later over the very name that put food on the table? Hold tight. The answer winds through late-night studio marathons, shell game accounting, and a 21st century trademark fight that a federal judge literally told one member to walk away from. Long before Billboard headlines, 3 future bandmates were perfecting wildly different sounds. Southside Chicago native Joy Marshall memorized Diana Ross ad-libs while singing in the house with Motown vinyl spinning in the background. Across town, Tanya Kelly tried to scat like Sarah Vaughan and trace Nat King Cole phrasing, dreaming of smoky jazz lounges instead of arena stages. Meanwhile, in Houston, Texas, church-trained belter Di Reed bounced between gospel choirs on Sunday and bluegrass jams on Friday, sneaking country harmonies into her cassette demos. All 3 women eventually made the pilgrimage west to Los Angeles, hoping session work and demo tapes might pay rent long enough for a break. Fate obliged, just not in the way any of them expected. In 1991, Giant Records executive Cassandra Mills needed an R&B girl group fast. 2 singers, Angela Slates and Deborah Mitchell, had already christened themselves JAD, using the initials of their first names. Then movie producers for Kid and Play's class act called, begging for a soundtrack single. Unfortunately, music biz politics shoved Slates and Mitchell aside before they could record I Wanna Love You. Mills frantically subbed in Di and Tanya alongside Holdover Joy, slapped an E on the end of the name, and sent the trio into the booth. The last-minute lineup change worked. The song cracked the R&B top 10, hiring managers finally learned how to spell Jade, and Mills demanded a full album in 30 days. No one realized that the contract they were signing to celebrate would soon choke the life out of their momentum. What followed felt like reality show chaos before reality TV existed. From 3 a.m. vocal stacks to sunrise synth edits, the women cut Jade to the max in a single month, fueled by takeout noodles and sheer adrenaline. The payoff was instant. Follow-up single, Don't Walk Away, soared to number 4 on the Hot 100. One Woman and Looking for Mr. Do-Right kept R&B radio in a headlock. The album blasted past 1 million sold. Jade hopped off one tour bus, repacked suitcases, and climbed onto an even bigger international coach, barely pausing long enough to learn what percentage of ticket revenue they were actually earning. They didn't know it yet, but every chart jump was adding zeros to an invisible debt column their label would soon claim they owed. Mid-tour interviews hinted at storm clouds. When a backstage reporter asked how fame felt, Joy laughed, then pivoted. It's called the music business for a reason. Read your paperwork. Years later, she revealed just how wrong the math was. In 2005, on the eve of her solo gospel album, Joy self-published answers to the 20 most asked questions about the music business, admitting that despite multi-platinum sales, the group's royalty ledger still claimed they owed Giant Records millions. A 2015 TEDx talk doubled down, warning young artists that chart positions don't guarantee mailbox money. One line landed like a gut punch. We were famous, but my bank account thought I was an intern. Viewers applauded. Lawyers took notes. Label disputes didn't stop the assembly line. At first, Jade dropped a live performance disc for BET, then 1994's studio follow-up Mind, Body, and Song with sleeper hit Every Day of the Week. But the treadmill ground down relationships faster than radio spins. Tanya quietly exited in 1995, citing business stress disguised as creative differences. Without her Velvet Alto, promoters downgraded festival slots. RCA shelved the next single. Headlines shifted to newer girl groups. By '96, the once unstoppable trio was effectively over, reduced to occasional one-off soundtrack cameos, while lawyers haggled over exit clauses. The public barely noticed the fade-out, but inside conference rooms, resentment simmered. Joy pivoted to motivational speaking, landing church conventions and corporate retreats between indie gospel releases, all while working a 9-to-5 to raise her daughter. Tanya dusted off her pre-fame interior architecture degree, launched a boutique design firm, and spent the 2000s building Beverly Hills estates for clients like Michael Jackson and Sylvester Stallone, billing fees that finally matched platinum dreams. Di parlayed her powerhouse belts into a coveted slot with Rod Stewart's touring band, crisscrossing continents on arena runs, belting Proud Mary solos, and cutting background vocals for Stevie Wonder and Gwen Stefani sessions. Every Instagram tour bus selfie reminded fans that at least one-third of Jade was still living the road life fantasy, even if it wasn't under the Jade banner. Nostalgia's siren call arrived in 2014 when the Women, minus Di, who was on a Stewart World Tour, dropped comeback single Baby Love with new member Miracle Holloway and promised an album titled Continuum. Fans cheered, R&B blogs posted think pieces, a YouTube docuseries teased studio footage, then silence. By 2018, Joy confessed on the Luke and Cami show that schedules, priorities, and grown woman life had stalled further work. The unfinished tracks still sit on a hard drive as of April 2025, a what-if monument to what might have been. Not recording didn't mean they stopped fighting, especially over the logo on old merch. In 2019, Di renewed the JADE trademark and listed Tanya and Joy as co-owners. 2 years later, Di sued them in federal court, claiming they booked shows behind her back. The case, Reed vs. Marshall, became a law school example of why co-owning a mark is asking for heartburn. In October 2023, a Texas judge tossed most of Di's claims, ruling that a co-owner can't accuse fellow co-owners of infringement unless an operating agreement says otherwise. The legal blog headlines were brutal. Judge tells Jade Singer to walk away from trademark suit. Fans winced. IP attorneys geeked out. The group's legacy took another public beating. Ironically, while lawyers sparred, Gen Z TikTok creators resurrected Don't Walk Away for throwback dance challenges, racking up tens of millions of views in early 2025. Spotify numbers spiked. Compilation playlists nudged the single past 200 million streams. Royalty splits are still messy, but the surge proves the song's hook hasn't aged a day, and labels courting 90s nostalgia tours are sniffing around again. Whether the women appear together or separately, the algorithm has declared Jade cool all over again. So where does that leave the once unstoppable trio? They're older, wiser, and no longer shy about reading contracts with a magnifying glass. Tanya designs luxury foyers instead of choreographing boy-bye anthems. Di belts classic rock bridges beside a rock and roll Hall of Famer. Joy mentors indie artists on how not to repeat her mistakes. Yet every viral snippet of Don't Walk Away pulls them back into the same cultural conversation. 3 voices, 1 timeless groove, 0 closure. The next move, joint tour, documentary, or permanent hiatus, depends less on talent and more on whether they can translate hard-won business lessons into a partnership that finally pays like platinum should. Until then, Jade remains a cautionary gemstone, brilliant under stage lights, fragile in the vault, and always capable of cutting deep if handled without care.